In its heat final bout with German Robot Wars runners-up Toonami. That's a TV channel, you muppet. I've been away for 2 years, please forgive me. Well, it's certainly been a while, hasn't it? Many of you probably know the reason as to why I've been away for over 2 years now, but for those who don't, I'll quickly explain. My wife and I adopted a baby girl back in 2023, and that takes up a lot of free time, especially when I also have a full-time job. However, said baby girl recently started preschool, which has freed up some time, so I figured I may as well try to come back. However, there are no promises. This could be a one and done, or it could lead to a triumphant return. Who knows? I'm certainly not going to put this channel before my family, but for the time being, I don't have to, so we'll see how things go, and yeah, just see how the future really pans out. So now that I'm back, at least for the foreseeable future, I thought I'd take a look at 3 different moments from Robot Wars history and rack my brain to see if I can theorise what might have happened if things turned out slightly differently. And for this video, I've got some doozies. I'm the Robot Wars Guru, and this is What If, Part 10. Bloody hell, Spawn Again was a bit of a shithouse in Series 6, wasn't it? The number 10 seed somehow managed to make the series semi-finals despite doing the exact epitome of sod all in its heat and was riddled with technical gremlins. Perhaps most embarrassing was its near defeat to the plodding pokey thing on wheels, Spam. Not only did Spam do all the work in their heat semi-final clash, if you can call it that, but it also had every right to make the heat final. Then it drove down the pit because I don't fucking know. But what would have happened had Spam actually won this atrocity? Well, we would get treated to one of the best massacres in the show's history, of course. Being honest, as terrible as it would have been, I kind of wish Spam did beat Spawn Again here, simply because seeing it get willied by Supernova would have been too awesome to pass up. Now I know many of you might be thinking, didn't Supernova barely work in its heat final? To which I would say yes. But that was only after this flip from Spawn Again. It wasn't much of a flip, I admit, but it was certainly a catalyst in the eventual death of the promising Super Spinner. So without said flip, I think Supernova would have easily creamed Spam and made it to the semis where it would fight Terahertz. Oof, now this one is a toughie. In Series 5, Fluffy proved a good horizontal spinner could decimate the hopes of John Reed. However, Terahertz was in its breakout series here, and that axe was frightening. Also, I'm pretty certain that extra armor on the front of the robot was for spinner protection. Add to that the fact that Supernova was rather fragile, insert shot of this piss poor flip again, and I can see Terahertz withstanding the hit and eventually KOing it. That would send Supernova into the loser's melee against Bigger Brother and Hypnodisc. Oh dear. Well, call me crazy, but Hypnodisc would still lose. It died after bouncing off of Spawn Again and hitting the side wall. It wouldn't take long for the same thing to happen when hitting Bigger Brother, and even if that didn't happen, those wheels certainly would make a tasty treat for Supernova. I honestly struggled to think who would win between these two, but after some thought, I feel Bigger Brother would take it. Just look at his battle against Disco Inferno earlier in the series. I know Supernova and Disco Inferno are different robots, but they're reasonably similar. Both were destructive horizontal spinners that were awesome when they worked, but sadly that didn't happen often. So that would put Bigger Brother through to fight Terahertz in the top 8, and we all know what happened there. Now on to something more frustrating. I really didn't like Mighty Mouse as a kid, and that opinion really hasn't changed that much. As a Techno Games redesign for Velociripper, it was fine, but I felt it looked a little bit bland in the Robot Wars arena, and the fact that it did fuck all but run away didn't help much either. Seriously, that's all it did. Look at this! At least Velociripper tried, even if it wasn't successful. Easily the most annoying instance of this tactic was in its Series 7 win against Chronic 2, and I use the term win looser than the removable link on Orte. It literally did bugger all, getting chased all around the arena only for Chronic to die because of a seized motor. Woo! Blah blah blah, Mighty Mouse sucks, what if Chronic didn't die? Well, we would get a cheeky rematch between it and Thermidor 2. Both these machines met each other in the Heat G final of Series 4, with Thermidor securing the victory and progressing to the semis. However, I can see Chronic getting its revenge here. Chronic is very similar in shape and weaponry to Prizefighter Mark II, which had no issues disposing of Thermidor in Series 5. Chronic's flipper also had a wider surface area, therefore I feel it would get underneath Thermidor's gaping ground clearance easier than vice versa. May I also remind you that Chronic was on top in that Series 4 battle until its flipper fell off. A sturdier and more defined version of Chronic would take this in my opinion, most likely by the judges. This would send them through to the semi-finals where it would meet and lose to Typhoon 2. Simply put, Chronic doesn't have the speed or driving accuracy to keep up with Typhoon 2 as it would do its usual run away and spin up routine. Imagine Typhoon 2's heat final with iron ore, only with bits of mangled blue instead of yellow. Exterminator. It was wonderful seeing Marlon Pritchard and Simon Baldwin enter in Series 7 with the beast that was the disc version of Exterminator. It was just so nice to see a team that had competed for so damn long finally make something that was grand final worthy. Seeing it steamroll pretty much everything it fought on its way to the grand final was boss, but I'd be lying if it was a completely smooth journey. In its heat final bout with German Robot Wars runners-up Tsunami, Exterminator flirted with defeat after it was flipped over and nearly ooted by the German powerhouse, but a misaligned flip saw the veterans fight for another day. As awesome as it was to see Exterminator do well, it was a shame to see Tsunami lose so early. This was a fight worthy of the semi-finals, and Tsunami had been a dominant force until this point, with its flipper proving to be one of the most powerful of its time. This has led many fans to wonder what would have happened if fate had gone the other way and Exterminator had been ooted here. In its first semi-final battle it would face an aggro and, in my opinion, would easily win. I love St. Aggro, but its high ground clearance would be its undoing here. Tsunami was fast and agile, so all it would need to do is get behind St. Aggro, shove it towards the arena sidewall, and yeet it out of the arena. Next, it would fight Bulldog Breed, and boy what a fight this would be. It would certainly be a lot closer than the previous battle, with both robots getting some good flips in, but I can't ignore Tsunami's speed and power here. Eventually I feel it would outdrive the British Bulldog and, again, do what it did best by flipping it out of the arena. This version of Bulldog Breed was great, but it didn't have the best track record for ooters, only scoring 1 in 2 years, and that wasn't exactly for a lack of trying. Just ask Cat 3, hard and tough as nails. Tsunami managed to get triple that in just 2 fights. I'm not saying ooters are everything, but I am saying that these two incredibly reliable robots wouldn't just die, and with an entire 5 minutes of battle time to use up, I can't see it going the distance with a powerful flipper like Tsunami's in there. So that would mean that Tsunami would make its second grand final in as many appearances, where it would clash with fellow bad weather bot Typhoon 2. Now I know that many of you might be thinking here, surely Typhoon 2 wins, right? Thermidor, Iron Ore and Atomic were all good flippers that all failed miserably, and Tsunami was annihilated by a nasty spinner in real life, so it should be a no-brainer. Well, no, it's not that simple I'm afraid. Simply put, I can see Tsunami easily charging at Typhoon 2 and flipping it over. Think about it, Typhoon 2 was a staggering 12 miles per hour slower than Tsunami, so it isn't hard to imagine it being outdriven by it. Atomic nearly succeeded in real life, but sadly technical gremlins got in the way. And even if Tsunami did try to get the Uta without waiting for Refbot to count it out, Typhoon 2's shape would make it a very difficult robot to flip back over. You could argue that Typhoon 2 could one-hit KO Tsunami like it did against Thermidor, but I don't really like that as a rule. By that logic, any robot can defeat another simply by bumping into it. I prefer to look at battles statistically, and being honest, I can't see Tsunami losing this one. So that would send Tsunami into its second grand final battle, also in as many attempts. Jesus Christ, either I'm seriously overrating this robot or it really was a great machine that got unlucky. Here it faces yet another wacky weather machine in Storm 2. This one is a tough one to figure out. You could argue that all Tsunami need do is simply flip Storm 2 over. That way the huge yawning ground clearance left by the inverted wedge would be an all too easy target for Tsunami to get it out of the arena. Tsunami was also quicker, albeit slightly, so it's certainly possible. However, Storm 2 was renowned for being difficult to get under. Grim Reaper certainly failed to in the series semi-finals, and Firestorm couldn't flip it either. In fact, the only competitors to successfully flip it over was Mute in the New Blood, and that was before the upgrades that were made to the Series 7 machine. Storm 2's pushing power also can't be understated here, as it was nigh on untouchable at this time. Not one single robot could outpower it, and its only loss was a questionable judge's decision against Typhoon 2. After much thinking, I personally think the likelihood of Storm 2 slamming and smashing Tsunami around the arena is greater than that of Tsunami flipping it out the arena. Do I think Tsunami might get a flip or two in? Possibly, but whether they could do it quick enough to capitalise on it is another question entirely. Just how knackered would it be by the time it does manage to get that flip in? And yeah, it could just as easily flip it over in the opening seconds of the battle, but I just feel that it's not as likely as Storm 2 bashing the piss out of it first. So I'll give Storm 2 the nod here, meaning that had Exterminator been ooted, Storm 2 would have indeed been the champion it deserved to be. And that's it for these theories and this video. Do you agree with me, or do you think I'm a used condom? What do you think would have happened in these scenarios? Let me know in the comments below. I've been the Robot Wars Guru, and I'll see you next time.